See a few introductions in the chat. Hi, Sarfjeet from Ghana. Hi, Akhil. Thank you for introducing yourself. Hi, Jeff Johnson from Michigan. Welcome to the webinar. Hi, Lugapriya. Hi, Pradyot from Kerala. Hello from Philadelphia. Thank you, everyone. It's great to see the chat being filled with all of your responses. Hi, Akash. All right. So if you are joining us from YouTube or LinkedIn, we're just starting the webinar and we've been asking everyone to introduce themselves. So please go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat if you've just joined in, or in the comment section. We love getting to know our audience. I'm seeing a lot of chats, so I'm not able to read all of it, but yeah. Hi, Raja from Tamil Nadu. Mohau, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Hi, Michael from Ethiopia. Hi, Josh. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for all of your wonderful introductions. I will also introduce myself because we are just starting the webinar. I'm Shweta and I'll be your host for today's webinar. So I'll first set some context. And before that, thank you all for taking the time to join us for this very important conversation on cybersecurity certifications. So we all know the reality that cybersecurity is not just one of the fastest growing fields, but it is also one of the most confusing spaces, especially when it comes to certifications. And today we are going to be discussing a lot more in depth about the certifications out there. And we're also going to help you have a good understanding of the kind of certification that you can probably think of choosing in your time ahead in your career, right? So, and we also have a wonderful speaker join us today. I'm going to introduce him shortly, but it is Dean Pompilio, and it's great to have him with us today. So I'll give his introduction in a minute. But before that, once again, thank you all for joining in, and it's time for us to start the webinar. Before we begin, we have a few quick ground rules for everyone here. If you have any questions, we request all of you to put your questions in the Q&A box. What happens when you share your questions in the chat is we tend to miss out on a few messages or questions you may have because of the large number of messages that we receive. So in case you share your questions in the Q&A box, if not addressed at that time, we will be addressing your questions towards the end of the webinar. And please use the chat box effectively, and let's keep the conversations related to today's topic. And I would really request all of you not to share any external links or WhatsApp links in the chat. And for your certificate of participation, we will be sharing a poll towards the end of the webinar. All you will have to do is fill up your full name, and you will be receiving the certificate of participation, the slide deck, and the resources to your email ID. So we also have a post-webinar resource as a part of this webinar. So to receive all of this, you will have to stay till the end of the webinar. I hope all the ground rules are clear to everyone here. And before we move ahead, I'm just going to take a minute or so to explain this, but I just want to know how many of you have joined our webinars before. Is this your first time? Have you joined any of our previous webinars? Please share your responses in the chat. I would really like to see if you are joining us for the first time or not. Okay, I can see a lot of first timers in the chat. Ninth webinar. Okay, as someone said ninth webinar. That's really nice that you're joining us again. Second time, first time. All right. So we have a few of them joining us multiple times. Some are saying six. So it's great to see you join us again. Thank you for joining our webinars. And for anyone joining us for the first time, thank you again. It's great to have you with us. And I'll quickly tell you about SimplyLearn for anyone joining us for the first time, because I'm sure others already know. So at SimplyLearn, we have already helped over 8 million learners advance their careers across 150 plus countries. And we do this through global partnerships. And on the screen right now, you can see some of our top industry partners like Google, Microsoft, and also universities like Michigan, Virginia Tech, UCSD, and a lot more. Here's something that we are really proud of and want to share with all of you. So most of our learners have reported a 50% salary hike on completion of courses with us. And we have also been rated 4.8 out of 5 by most of our learners. So this clearly speaks about the kind of experience, learning experience that you get to be a part of with SimplyLearn. And we also have a graduation rate of 80%. So in case you decide to join a course with us, or if you attend our webinars, this is exactly what we would like to provide to all of you, a good learning experience. So that's about SimplyLearn. I'm pretty sure I didn't take much time on that. And now let's come to the most exciting part of the webinar for me as a host, and that is introducing the guest speaker for today's webinar, Dean Pompilio. So I'll just quickly introduce him, and I'm sure he will also share more insights from his end. So Dean is someone who has been in the cybersecurity space long before it became the global priority that it is today. So he began his IT career back in 1989, and by mid 1990s, he has already specialized in cybersecurity, which means he has actually witnessed the evolution that this industry has, right? Over the years, he has also worked with government agencies, international financial institutions, Fortune 500 companies, large banks, and many more. So he has worked in multiple domains. And what I personally admire about Dean is not just his depth of experience, but also his commitment to teaching and mentoring professionals. So since 2011, he has been training hundreds of learners every year and helping them navigate through certifications and also build meaningful careers in cybersecurity. So today we are not just going to hear about theory, we are learning from someone who has lived and worked through decades of real cybersecurity challenges. So Dean, it's truly an honor to have you with us, and I'm sure everyone's waiting to hear more from you. So over to you.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. Looking forward to spending the next hour with all of you, talking about these important topics, as Sweta was just explaining to all of us. Are you gonna share my screen?
Yes, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
Okay. Okay, everybody should be able to see my screen. Great. So as I was saying, we've got the next hour together, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of your questions as we get to the end, after you've seen a few details about what we're trying to learn about today. So what is happening in the cybersecurity market today? This is one of the fastest growing fields in the world right now. It has been for some time, actually. And the demand for people that are trained, that have experience, is exploding. Also, the expectations from employers are rising. In fact, according to ISC Squared, approximately 4.8 million people are needed in the IT world right now, in the cybersecurity world. That's a massive number of available jobs. So there's that's part of the good news, right? It's that there's a lot of opportunity available, but there's also a competition to think about. And this shift in employers becoming a little bit more selective means that they're paying more attention to what someone means when they say that they're qualified. They're not just asking, does this person want to work in cybersecurity? They're asking, can this person step into this role with credible knowledge, sound judgment, and hopefully less ramp-up time? So in this environment, certifications have become more important, not because they replace experience, but because they help validate your experience. ISC Squared also did a study on hiring trends, and they found that hiring managers are putting a high value on prior IT experience and cybersecurity certifications. 89% of those people in the study would consider candidates who only had entry-level cybersecurity certifications without professional experience. So that's good news also for people that are just starting out. Getting that certification on your resume opens doors. It creates opportunities. So what this tells us is that certifications are becoming a stronger signal in the market, especially when employers are trying to reduce their hiring risk. The way I would phrase it is that certifications are not a magic solution. They're not a substitute for hands-on ability. In today's market, they are moving towards something that it used to be nice to have certifications, but now it's more of an expected thing in many career paths. A certification may not get someone hired all by itself, but it can certainly help get them taken seriously to getting past the screening process. And it also proves that you are committed to the profession. And it's ultimately with the way we are able to prove that we are ready to tackle the responsibilities of a job. So ranking certifications is an interesting perspective to think about. There are many well-known certifications. We're going to focus on a handful of those here today. And we might be thinking to ourselves, how would we rank these certifications from a career return perspective? What is my return on investment? Because you're going to be putting in the time and the energy and, of course, some money in order to get certified. I think the best way to look at it is to stop treating all certifications as if they do the same thing, because they don't. From a career return perspective, I usually tell people to look at four things: the cost, the time to earn, the relevance to the role, and the long-term market value. In other words, what does it take to get the certification, and what doors does it realistically open afterward? For example, Security Plus. This often has a very strong return on investment for someone earlier in their career because the barrier to entry is lower and can help them get into the field more quickly. The investment is smaller, and the payoff can come more quickly as well. Something like CISSP, that's a different choice, right? This is one of the strongest long-term ROIs because it's so broadly respected across the industry. It supports a wide range of paths: engineering, architecture, consulting, leadership, especially leadership. So it tends to pay off over time, especially for experienced professionals. The CISM or CISM, this has an excellent ROI for someone moving towards management, governance, and leadership. If your future is less about hands-on technical work and more about leading programs and making security decisions at a higher level, the CISM may give you a better return than a more technical certification. Then there's CISA, CISA. This is a great example of a certification with a highly targeted ROI. It may not be the best fit for everyone, but if your career is tied to audit, controls, compliance, and assurance, it could be extremely valuable. And then last, we have CCSP, the Certified Cloud Security Professional from ISC². This tends to offer a strong ROI for professionals working in cloud-focused environments, which of course is a huge growth area and has been for some time now. So the short version of the answer is the best certification from an ROI perspective is not necessarily the one that's the most famous. It's the one that best aligns with your next role and ultimately your long-term career direction. So another question to think about, we've got some simple formulas here. What is your career return on investment? The ability to earn more money, having upward mobility or sideways mobility perhaps in your role, showing a hiring manager that you are a better choice than someone who perhaps is not certified. But we have to think about the prep time, the difficulty, and of course, the minimum requirements. At the foundational level, sort of like what I was just saying a minute ago, Security Plus is really about proving you understand the core concepts needed to work in the field. CompTIA, which is the vendor for Security Plus, describes it as validating the essential skills for core security functions. So I usually see this as a strong entry or early career credential. It basically says to an employer, I understand the basics, I can speak the language, and I'm ready to contribute. Then you have something like CEH from EC Council, the Certified Ethical Hacker. This is more about offensive security. EC Council positions it around learning to think like a hacker so you can identify weaknesses and understand attack techniques and countermeasures. So CEH is less about broad governance and more about ethical hacking, attack paths, and how adversaries operate. When you move into CISA, you're in a different lane, we could say. This validates your knowledge in audit, assurance, controls, and governance, which is a great fit for people that are working in governance, risk, and compliance, or GRC. CISM shifts the focus again. This one's more about security management. So governance, risk, program development, incident management, these are areas where a CISM would really shine. So if someone wants to lead a security program, manage teams, or move into GRC leadership, CISM tends to align very well in that direction. With CCSP, this is someone that is taking a more advanced cloud security approach to their career. ISC squared frames it around designing, managing, and securing data applications and infrastructure in cloud environments. So if your career is increasingly tied to AWS, Azure, software as a service, multi-cloud, or cloud governance, the CCSP is a very important certification to consider. And then finally, we have CISSP, the Certified Information System Security Professional. This is the broad senior level credential in this group. It's very well known in the industry. ISC squared describes it as validating the ability to design, implement, and manage an organization's security program with both technical and managerial depth. This is why CISSP is often seen as a certification for experienced professionals who want to they want to have broad credibility across security leadership, architecture, engineering, and operations. So what do we mean by validation when you're getting getting a certification? Tripping over my words here today. What we've just looked at is how certifications try to validate the type of professional that each one is designed for. But for many people that might be considering getting certified, they're not just concerned with what they validate. They want to compare them in terms of real career impact. Like, what is my salary potential? What do my experience requirements need to be? How much effort and time do I need to prepare for something like this? And certainly we're considering what type of roles might become available. When people compare these certifications, the best way to think about the ROI, the return on investment, is the best certification depends on where you are in your career and where you want to go next. And this is different for everybody. There's no perfect answer for how to approach this. You have to look at your own experience up to this point in your career. If you're early in your career, Security Plus is usually going to give you the fastest ROI. It's more accessible, it's less expensive than the advanced certifications, and it opens the door to entry-level and early mid-level security roles. It's often the best starting point because the investment is smaller and the payoff comes quickly. If you want the strongest broad long-term ROI, the CISSP is your best choice. It has the widest recognition across the industry and applies to many different paths, including security engineering, architecture, operations, consulting, and especially leadership. It does require more experience and effort, but it pays off well over time because it's seen as a major career credential. Probably the most well-known of this bunch that we're looking at. If you're more in a management or leadership direction with your career, then CISM might be your best option. This is focused more on governance risk, and managing a security program instead of deep technical work. For professionals that are moving towards a manager role or a director or GRC leadership, this would be a smart investment. Some of us are more interested in auditing. So auditing, controls, and compliance. For those people, CISA might be your best choice. It's highly respected, but it is more specialized. It has more of a narrow focus. Its ROI is strongest for people that are working in audit, assurance, regulatory, or compliance-heavy roles. If you're more focused on cloud security, then a CCSP can give you the best value. As more organizations are moving to cloud environments, that certification becomes more valuable for people who want to become cloud security architects, engineers, or cloud security leaders. So lots of things to think about from that short list of certifications. So now you might be thinking about, okay, certifications are valuable. Which ones make sense based on my current role? Where am I going to go next? But how do you match a certification to your career path? We have to think, okay, just like I said a minute ago, what job is it that you want next? Even in your current job, in many cases, people are not eligible for promotions until they get certified. Or maybe that's just something that you come up with on your own. I want to get promoted. I want to stay in the same path, but I want to get higher up on that ladder. For example, if you're still building your foundation or trying to get into cybersecurity, then Security Plus is your best choice. That is an obvious thing to think about. It gives you credibility and shows that you understand the basics across a wide range of security topics. If you're already in the field and you want to grow into a broader senior level role, then CISSP is often the role people look at because it has such wide recognition. Everybody knows what it is. And as a little side note, when I achieved my CISSP back in 2005, I was switching jobs shortly thereafter. And once I put that on my resume and people started searching, through job sites like Dice or trying to think of the names of the sites back then, but I got a tremendous response from potential employers because they look for that term. They see here's a person that has it, and now you're getting emails and phone calls. Then they want to talk. They want to see if you're going to be a good fit to work for their organization. So if you want flexibility for different types of roles, the CISSP is a great choice because you can go into engineering, architecture, consulting, and especially leadership. And speaking of leadership, if that's a focus, then CISM, as I pointed out, is a good fit. This lines up better with leadership responsibilities instead of focusing on the technical side. You get a little bit of technical exposure in that class, but it is really more about leadership. And then CISA, as I mentioned, is very specialized on the audit side of things. And there's certainly a demand for people that understand how to audit IT environments, especially cybersecurity environments. And then if I'm thinking about getting into cloud, or if I'm already in the cloud environment, then the CCSP is your best option for gaining recognition for yourself and opening up more opportunities in the future. Now, the estimates that we see here for salary and study hours are a good starting point to think about. It'll vary depending on your ability to fit the time in to do the work. And of course, your existing knowledge and experience will matter quite a bit. But it's a good starting point to think about it and get yourself into a realistic mindset. So making your next move in your career is an exciting thing to do. I've done it 5 or 6 times before I became a trainer. And I've not regretted any of those career moves. Some of them were better than others, but it's always an exciting thing to take on a new challenge, to think about, like if I'm going to plan this over a course of, say, like a 3-year plan, which you might do, we could treat this like a roadmap, right? We don't just want to collect certifications like a hobby. I have over 24 myself. So someone might accuse me of doing that, but they're all necessary because I want to teach the classes. I want to be able to speak from experience. So if we think about it like a roadmap, which is similar to what this diagram is here, we should be thinking, okay, maybe I should not be asking what cert should I get next because it looks impressive, but instead ask ourselves, what role am I trying to grow into over the next 1, 2, or 3 years? Then I can choose certifications that support that sequence, that support that plan. For example, in year 1, you might focus on building or validating your foundation. This could mean something like Security Plus if you're still early in your career, or maybe a more role-specific certification if you already have some experience. The point is to strengthen your base and make yourself more credible for the next step. In year 2, you can get more intentional. This is where you start to choose based on direction. If you're moving toward technical leadership or broader security responsibility, maybe that points towards CISSP. If you're heading toward management and governance, maybe you should be considering CISM. And then again, audit, CISA would be a better choice. And then if you think cloud is in your future, then CCSP. You can't really go wrong with anything to do with cybersecurity, cloud, and leadership. They all have value in varying different combinations depending on the individual. Now, in year 3, you might want to think less about collecting another random certification and more about filling in the most valuable gap. You might ask yourself, what's missing from my resume for the jobs that I want? Sometimes the best certification to get is the one that kind of rounds out your experience, not something that duplicates what you already have. So the approach is to build in stages. Start with your foundation, align that with the direction that you think you want to head in, and then fill in any gaps that you think might make yourself more appealing to an employer. The market changes, of course, and it will usually tell you whether your certification plan matches where you think you want to go. So we want to support a career path, not just thinking about presenting someone with a transcript. So hopefully you have a little bit better appreciation now about how to think about certifications, not just as exams, but as a long-term career accelerator. So in order to build on the 3-year plan that I was just discussing, we also have to think about the preparation required. And how do we do this in a way that will be efficient use of our time and will actually be productive? So one of the biggest mistakes that people often make is studying for the exam the way they wish it was instead of the way the exam actually is. And I often tell my students, try to think like the exam designer. And that's a tricky thing to do, right? If you've never designed an exam or come up with questions. But if you put yourself in their shoes a little bit, it does help. And what I mean by this, a lot of people assume that maybe just because they work in cybersecurity, they can just rely on their experience. But these exams are not all testing the same thing. Some are more technical, some are more managerial, some are more about process, governance, or audit thinking. So one common mistake is going into the process without really understanding, the mindset of that specific exam. Another big mistake is focusing only on memorization. People try to cram terms and acronyms and use things like flashcards. And of course, some of this helps, but many of these exams are actually testing your judgment, your ability to reason through a problem. They want to know whether you can apply concepts, if you can prioritize correctly, and then choose the best answer in a real world situation. I think a lot of candidates also wait too long to start working with practice questions. Practice questions are not just for measuring your readiness. They help you learn how the exam actually will present the questions to you. We want to see different writing style, different perspectives on certain topics, and so on. This is especially important for exams like CISSP, CISM and CISA, where two answers may look good, but only one is going to be the clearly correct answer. That's a problem with almost any exam, where you might have two that look correct, but one's better. Another mistake is studying without a plan. People might jump from videos to books to random notes. They might use quiz apps, but they might be neglecting to really build a structured approach. This usually leads to gaps in your knowledge and often frustration. My personal preference and what I always recommend to my students is rely on your calendar. I use Outlook. Some of you might use Outlook or some other email client. When I'm studying for an exam, I put appointments on my schedule just like they're any other important meeting. So I block out an hour before work, or I put in 2 hours in the evening, maybe look at a 3-hour block on a Saturday or a Sunday. This way I get the reminder on my phone. Oh, you can't see my phone. That's interesting. I'm showing it, but it's not showing up. Anyway, I get the reminder on my phone. I get the reminder on my laptop. Now I'm kind of tricking myself into thinking, oh, I have an important meeting. I need to stop what I'm doing, get off the couch, turn off Netflix, and go into my office so I can study. This works. I can tell you from my own experience, it works. And, it's like anything else, you have to practice to get yourself into the discipline of doing it, but it does help. And finally, I think a lot of people underestimate the importance of exam endurance. Even if you know the material, if you are tired, if you have poor pacing, and if you're second guessing, that will hurt your score. So the best advice I usually give is try to understand the exam's point of view, study in a structured way, use practice questions early, and do not confuse familiarity with readiness. So let's talk about some exam tips. There's always a better way to do things, right? Your instinctual level, it may be good, but we can always use a little bit of help. And so this diagram shows us a few different areas where you might spend some time focusing. Putting yourself into the shoes of the person who has the role that you want is a great way to think of it. If I know that I want to be a pen tester, maybe I should learn more about what those people do and what their typical job responsibilities are. Or if I want to be a manager and I don't want to focus so much on technical things, maybe I can learn more about that particular role. Also, I guess if you want to be even more specific, you can do it to learn about that role in a particular company. So now you know that company's culture and how they treat managers or how they treat their security professionals. Maybe you want to work in a SOC, your security operations center. So learning about the actual role and trying to see how the exam fits it is a good exercise and a good use of your time. Now, if you're just starting your certification journey, we saw earlier that there is an estimate for the number of hours that you would set aside to prepare. But of course, this really depends on each certification. It depends a lot on the person's background. And also, it depends on how recently they've been working with the material. Like if you're already in the field and you are doing this stuff on a daily basis, it's going to be simpler to get into a good regimen of studying and preparing. I think the most important thing, though, is to try to be realistic instead of being optimistic. A common mistake is saying, I can just squeeze in a little studying time after dinner, or squeeze in oh yeah, I guess you're answering the questions there. We got a couple answers for Delta. Yeah, that's a big problem. If you If you choose it because you think it's valuable, but it's not aligned with what you actually want to do, then that will probably be a mistake. That's a good point. For someone that's just starting out, I think a good rule of thumb is to plan in terms of months, not days or weeks, or not weeks or days. For something foundational like Security Plus, maybe 1 or 2 months of study, consistent study, if you already have some IT or some security exposure. For something more advanced like CISSP or CISM or CISA, you might need several months, especially if you're balancing work and family and everything else. When I studied for my CISSP, I allocated about a month. I already met the minimum requirements. I exceeded the minimum requirements. So a month of time for me was enough. I think I went through, the book I was using was about 1,200 pages, and I probably used about 1,500 practice questions because that's all I could get my hands on at the time. And it worked. But it was a month of studying almost every day. That being said, what matters most is not just the total number of hours, but whether the study is steady and structured. I would rather see someone study 5 to 7 hours a week for 3 months than try to cram everything into a few exhausting weekends. Slow, consistent preparation usually works much better than having a deadline and procrastinating and finding out that you're running out of time. I also tell people to build in time for 3 things. We want to learn the material first. Second, we want to practice with questions. And then third, you want to review any areas where you know you're weak. If I'm working with practice questions, I should be scoring myself. I should know I've got, let's say I do 100 questions. If I only got 60 of those correct, then my percentage is 60%. That's not good enough. You maybe want to get up to 70% or higher. My personal standard when I'm studying is I want to achieve 90% accuracy. Once I get to the 90% level, I know that I am very ready for the test, and there's almost no chance that I will fail because I've worked hard enough to get up to that 90% level. And again, this is why I always recommend using your email calendar. Create those appointments for yourself. I put them in a red color because red's important. And that way, when I see the reminder, I stop what I'm doing and I go study. You want studying to become a routine, not just something that you do when you're in a crisis. So here's some more estimates. Yeah, if you're working full time, if you're taking care of children, if you've got a lot of other things going on, we all do, right? Everyone has busy lives, it seems. Then you'd have to try to fit. But if you use the calendar approach and you're starting to create time, you're saying, okay, I can fit in an hour after work every day or an hour before work. I tend to study better before work personally. My mind is ready first thing in the morning. Other people might do better late at night. Trying to find enough time on the weekends, that's hard because we want to have time for family and friends, but they might understand if you have to tell them for the next month or two, I'm not gonna be around too much. I'm focusing on this exam prep, and I don't want to have to take the exam twice. I've failed 2 exams out of the 23 or 24 I've attempted. And both times it was because I thought I knew the material better than I did, and I did not put in the time. I made that mistake of being overconfident. It can happen to anybody. Even people with a lot of experience can still make that mistake. Actually, maybe you're more likely to make that mistake the more experience you have. And it's especially painful when you have to use your own money to buy another exam voucher. It's no fun. Okay, so we have a section here with some questions for all of you to consider. And this would be useful when we're done, and you'll see how that works, but go ahead and look at these questions. And if you want, you can take notes on which answer you chose, just so you can see the pattern when we're finished. So yeah, problem solving. How do you like to work? Thinking about a multi-year plan and your experience level. Those are all good areas to start with. So mark down your answers for those 4 questions. And that should be enough time for everyone to answer those. And then we've got a few more questions, 3 more to consider. Okay, so that should be enough time for everyone to have their answers. Yeah, they're more for you to use when we see the pattern that we're trying to decode, right? So if you wrote your answers down for those 7 questions, if you are mostly focused on the A answers, then maybe CEH is the direction you can head into. And then we see for B, C, D, and E, those pertain to other certifications. So this is kind of a clever way to see if if your answers are aligning with what you think you wanted to do before you started answering those questions. Okay, I see someone posting all 7. So a few of you have a mix of answers, and that's fine too. It would be unusual if you answered all C for everything or all B for everything. Maybe it's not that unusual, but it might be. So having a mix is probably more expected. And so if your answers are mixed, have a look at this and see if that makes more sense now. Alpha and Charlie, maybe you're more of a technical leader. Bravo and Charlie, governance. And then Alpha and Delta, maybe you're more interested in cloud. Either way, hopefully those questions are giving you something to think about and in a way that is helpful. Because maybe you're not, maybe it's easy to have a narrow focus and say, oh, I want to get to the next level somehow, but you're not really thinking about what that means and putting it into the perspective of your career up to this point. Okay, someone's saying that they thought those are helpful questions. Good. Glad to hear that. Glad to learn that. There's someone with a lot of echo. All right. Actually, this one doesn't include echo, does it? That was Security Plus. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the certifications that SimplyLearn offers. Some more answers coming in. Yeah, for the longer questions, I will address those at the end. But thanks for putting them in the chat. So these are the 5 that we've been talking about. And as we've already discussed, Security Plus is often your first step. You might consider cloud computing as a way to help build your foundation. Since most organizations of a reasonable size are using the cloud anyway, that's a great choice to consider. If you want to get into management or auditing, then you consider CISM or CISA. And then leadership roles or engineering roles in other ways are where we would think about CISSP. And as I pointed out earlier, opening doors is what we're after, right? What door are you hoping that will open for your next opportunity? You want to, think about it from that point of view. So what are some of the key insights then? How do you actually prepare for certifications in the right way without wasting months trying to figure out how to do this by yourself? It's difficult. A lot of us have problems with time management, procrastination. I'm guilty just like anybody else. You might be motivated, but if you don't have the proper structure and some sort of guidance, then it's going to be difficult to know where to focus. And so SimplyLearn's trying to help solve this problem by focusing on these areas. Sweta, did you want to take over?
Yeah, sure, Dean.
Sure. I'll stop sharing my screen so you can take over.
Yes.
There you go.
All right, everyone. I'll just quickly share my screen. All right, I hope my screen is visible to all of you. So like Dean was just explaining the key highlights of the course. So I'll just emphasize on it once again. So as a part of SimplyLearn certifications, you will get access to live online classroom trainings. And we also have globally recognized cybersecurity credentials. There's also a structured preparation with official curriculum support, because that is something that we usually see a lot of our learners struggle with. And we have also designed our programs to enhance real-world security expertise. So we have the top industry experts teaching you. And our programs are also aligned with current industry demand and exam standards. So everything that Dean spoke about in all of these slides, we have all these courses at SimplyLearn as well. And I would like to address that there have been a lot of questions, and there's a Q&A section coming up. So your questions will definitely be answered during that time. So I just wanted to give you all context, right, before we move ahead. I saw a few questions about the course fee and what they can expect from SimplyLearn. So for all the courses that we spoke about previously, we have the certification. So for CompTIA Security Plus, for US learners, it's $1,200, and for Indian learners, it's 59,990 rupees. For CCSP certification, US learners, it's $3,000, and for Indian learners, it's 59,999 rupees. For CISM certification, it's $1,950, and for Indian learners, it's 1,74,195. For CISA, for US learners, it's $1,950, and Indian learners, it's 1,74,195. And finally, for CISSP, the course fee is $2,800, and for Indian learners, it's 1 lakh rupees. So these are just the pricings, and I think that you have to think of this as a course investment. And I'm sure all of you also have a lot of experience in this field, and you have also researched from your end. I can see that from the chat and the comments. So you can definitely go ahead, check our courses, check the testimonials, also compare our courses to everything that's out there, because we're really confident about what we are providing. And it would be great if you also go to our website and check it out, get more information on the same. But if you would like more details about this, you can scan this QR code. So this is going to take you through to the course page, where you can see all the cybersecurity certifications. You can go ahead and choose the one of your choice, and I will quickly launch a poll. If you are interested to learn more about these courses or certifications, our team will be able to help you with that. So you can click on a yes for that. Or if not, you can, in the meantime, you can also definitely go to the page and do check it out yourselves. Do your fair research before making a decision. So about, okay, I can see a question about wanted to ask, how are you rating the cost for African country? So basically, when you go to our course page, it automatically detects your location and the course fee appears for your specific country. So there should not be any confusion for that. So I'm going to quickly launch the poll for everyone here. Just give me a minute. Yes, I hope the poll is visible to all of you. It should be visible on your screen right now. So you can click on a yes if you would like more details about this, and our counselors will call you and talk to you about these courses. If it is not visible to all of you, what you can do is you can go to the course page of the specific certificate that you would like to enroll for, and there will be an option to sign up or talk to an advisor. You can click on that, and they will definitely share details with you regarding the course as well. I can see a lot of you say, I will decide later. All right. Yeah, definitely. You should make your informed choices. We are all for that. Do your research. And okay, there are a lot of questions in the chat. So I think as you all are filling up this form, I will also share a few questions with Dean. And before that, I saw a lot of responses in the chat for the quiz that we had, the interactive segment. So I just wanted to tell all of you that you will be receiving the slide deck. So in case you missed out or did not take a note of your options, you can definitely do that when you receive the slide deck, and you will be receiving this within 48 working hours once you fill up the next form. That is the certificate form that I will be launching for all of you. Right. So in the meantime, I will also pass on a few questions to Dean. Dean, can you are you there? So I can just pass on a
Yes.
few questions. Yes. There's one question from an anonymous attendee, and he's saying that he has 2 years of experience as a full stack engineer. I'm looking for switching into cybersecurity domain. Which role and certificate would you recommend?
Full stack engineer, so software development then. And
Yeah, he just mentioned he has 2 years of experience as a full stack engineer,
okay.
and he wants to switch into cybersecurity.
Yeah, I think that 2 years of experience is a little bit on the lower end. So Security Plus is probably your best bet to, as I was saying before, learn the terminology, learn how to speak the language, and from there you can decide if you want to specialize in other areas, but that will give you a nice broad exposure to the field.
Yes, thank you for that. There's another question from Aditya, and he's saying that I've been researching the EC Council's reputation recently, and there's a lot of discussion regarding their past security lapses and the quality of their exam materials. Given these concerns, do you still recommend the CEH as a credible milestone for students entering the field today?
Okay, yeah, I saw that question when it was posted earlier. I'm just scrolling back, I found it. Okay. Security lapses, yeah, there's all of the vendor certification vendors are trying to make sure they have a great reputation, or they want to make sure that there's confidence in their products. They want to make sure that the certification has a lot of value in the workplace. And so EC Council is no different. They've had some challenges in the past, but I teach their classes very regularly, and I think that their certifications hold a lot of value. Even if the company has had their management has had some challenges, that doesn't affect the value of the certifications, in my opinion.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that, Dean.
Sure.
I think we have two more questions left. So I'll just quickly stop this poll, launch the certificate poll, and then take those questions up in the Q&A section. So I'm going to quickly end this poll for everyone here. And I saw a lot of questions about the certificate of participation. So I'm going to launch this poll right now. All you have to do is fill up your full name and you will be receiving your certificates in your email ID. You will also be getting a post-webinar resource as a part of this webinar and for staying back with us till the very end. So please go ahead and share your responses with us, and you can mail us. So for anyone who's not able to access the poll, you can mail us at webinars@simplylearn.net, and we will be sharing the certificate deck and all the resources with all of you as well. If you're joining us from YouTube or LinkedIn and you're watching us live and you've stayed till the very end, you can definitely mail us at webinars@simplylearn.net, and we will share the certificates with you as well. Okay, so we are receiving a large number of questions. So Dean, I'm going to pass on a few more questions. So there's one question about what do we need to know before attempting CompTIA Plus? Yeah, CompTIA Plus, Security Plus.
Sure. This is a certification that does not really require much prerequisites. You should be in IT, hopefully in learning about cybersecurity for at least a couple of years, so that you're not going to be completely lost by the concepts. But it is considered a foundational starting point, so you do not need much experience to get started.
All right. Thank you for answering that question. There's one more question about which course is good for AI plus security. And there are a few more questions that I saw previously in the chat as well about people asking about how AI is going to impact cybersecurity in the coming days, and are these certifications going to be relevant at that point?
Right. That's an excellent question. We really didn't talk about AI in this presentation, but most of the security vendors are including AI content in their exams. That's pretty much across the board. And many of the vendors are producing new certifications that are focused on AI. EC Council, CompTIA in particular, another company called AI Plus Certs. So there's a lot of competition in that part of the industry, because everybody knows that if you don't have some AI knowledge, that you'll get left behind. So we all need to learn about it to some degree.
Right. Thank you for that. I hope that provides clarity to you. I think I can, in the interest of time, I can take up one or two more questions at max. There's a message in the chat. He says he's 44 years old and he has 10 years of IT experience and other years in cloud technologies. Which certification would be useful to him?
Okay, you said it was in the chat.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not seeing it, but so 10 years of experience in IT, or is that cybersecurity also?
I am not sure.
Oh, I see it now. I found it.
Yeah, IT.
IT
Yeah.
experience. Okay, and another years with cloud technology. Um, I'd say if you already have cloud experience and that's some area you want to focus on, the CCSP would be an excellent choice. But then you might have to think about your career direction. If you want to stay technical or you want to get into a leadership role, and then that would steer you towards something like CISM or CISSP if you want to get more into leadership. It sounds like 10 years of experience, that's usually a point where people make that sort of a choice. Stay technical or get into management.
Right. Thank you for answering that
Sure.
question, Dean. I think there are a lot more questions. Unfortunately, in the interest of time, we will not be able to take up all of your questions. I'm going to quickly end this poll right now. I saw a few more people ask questions and share their details in the chat. So we will not be able to record your responses from the chat. If you were not able to fill up your details, like I mentioned, you can mail us at webinars@simplylearn.net. You can see this on this slide, the email ID mentioned there. You can mail us there with your full name, and you can just tell us that you've stayed till the end of the webinar. So we will share all of the resources and the slide deck with all of you as well. So I think we will have to wrap up this webinar right now because it's already time, and we hope to cover all of your questions in the upcoming webinar. So in the meantime, I would also like to thank Dean for being such a wonderful speaker. It was great
Thank
having
you.
you with us, and we learned a lot from you. And there's one last question I'd like to ask you, and I always ask all of my guest speakers here. What is one piece of advice you would like to leave with our audience who've stayed with us till the very end of this webinar?
Uh, I would go back to what I said earlier about artificial intelligence. Find some time in your day to start learning about it, and eventually you might decide there's some certifications that you want to pursue, but don't ignore that because your career will benefit in many ways the more you know about AI.
Okay. Thank you so much for that advice. It's great. And I'm sure everyone here would also take this very seriously, and you have to upskill yourselves, like Dean mentioned. Once again, I would also like to thank all of you for staying with us till the very end of this webinar. It was wonderful having you with us. If you have any suggestions for webinars, or if you want us to host any webinars on any specific topics, feel free to mail us. We love hearing from all of you, and we look forward to having you all in the upcoming webinars as well. So thank you all once again. Until I meet you next time in our upcoming webinars. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Dean, for
Bye, everyone.
staying.